never stops shining. Somewhere, somewhere, a new day is dawning. Much more brilliantly than the sun, the light of God, too, is always shining. Sometimes my thoughts may be so focused on a challenging life situation that I do not sense this divine light. Then, in a flash of insight, I experience again the illuminating presence that even, even in my darkest moments, is as near as my next thought. So I affirm, let there be light. Would you join with me, please? We affirm, let there be light. I breathe out frustration and worry. Breathing in, I am filled with the light of truth that illuminates my mind and shines from within my heart. Powerful words inspired by Genesis, first chapter through third verse. Then God said, let there be light. And there was light.
Joy song.
Yes, we do. It's like old-time AM radio. We're going to have a back-to-back joy song segued right to the meditation music. Yeah, kind of like. Okay, so
we're
here we go.
We're gonna
You're gonna
stand
know
up
this
for some
song.
joy, then we're gonna sit down and be in peace for some meditation. All right, and you'll know this one.
You'll know this, and I get to play harmonica twice today. So here we go.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my fears relief. How precious did that grace appear! I first believed through many dangers, toils, and already God's grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been here 10 years, let's to sing God's praise. And when we first begun, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. All right, thank you guys for that nice sing-along. Let's sit down and get into a meditative place.
2 in a row. Here we go.
I am opening, opening,
us, that is always there, that illuminates that light. So as we come together today and open not only to ourselves, to each other, to all of those strangers that you walk by each day in a store, on the streets, no matter who they are, smile, look them in the eye and say good morning, good afternoon. I see you. I see who you are. For that light is always there. All you need to do is ask. So as we go into the quiet today and just sit and feel that light permeating inside of us as it permeates every cell of your body. And you get those little God bumps. That love comes up into your heart. Just feel it and know that that is the I am that you are. So take a breath with me and let's go within. All that frustration go. As you take that breath in, blow it out and just let it go. Now, as we bring that love and that light back into this room, we like to go into our congregational blessing, bringing those and light that we are, because we know that they are too, because we are one, no matter what. So if you'll join me now, all of you, those online and those of here, bringing those names out aloud. Kathy, Robert, Sharon, And now I would like to bring our prayer box as well into this. All those names that have been gratefully put in there to hold all of these names. You, in those names you've asked for, it is done. So if you'll confirm this by saying your name aloud, Kathy. So through those powers and those presence that all was, I'd like to say thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
The song is called Till We See. Starlight filters through the dream time, sending its brilliance to the world. So many questions in the meantime, forgetting all the games, where to turn to go now. Who will hold your hand? Who will trust your perfect dreaming heart? Birds flying home and the water flowing swiftly. Where are they going in the twilight? It's the answer to our prayers, the mystery unspoken, the song sung unbroken and free, the elemental fire, the path beyond desire, the grace that lifts us higher till we see. Can you see your face in the mirror of the air about the secrets of our lives? It's the answer to our prayers, the mystery unspoken, the song sung unbroken and free, the elemental fire, the path beyond desire, the grace that leads into the wonder of your loving precious soul. Can you feel it? The beauty of each day we walk this earth refines that wonder into gold. It's the answer to our prayers, the mystery unspoken, the song sung unbroken and free, the elemental fire, the path beyond desire, the grace that lifts us higher till we see, till we see, till we see.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, we kind of had some things this morning because I wasn't paying attention and we didn't have everything right. I forgot to do the poll. Isn't that wonderful? And we didn't have any children here this morning anyway, but I still am going to do a little bit of the children's lesson because I think it helps. So my message today is entitled A Season of Grace. And that's what, to me, Lent is, based on one reading. Amazing how that works. You read something, it just totally changes your perspective. Anyway, this is a piece of cake. I don't even remember what kind of cake this is. It's the last piece of it. It's got, this is spice cake with nuts and cream cheese frosting. How many of you like cake? Maybe not this cake, but most everybody likes cake, or cookies, or pie, or ice cream, or a big juicy avocado. Yeah, somebody, something. Everybody has something that, ooh, we got to wait a little bit, right? Got to wait a little bit. And my message about the cake was to wait. I was actually going to bring in candy if there were children here, but there are no children, so I'm not. Figured cake would tempt you guys more. But Lent is about traditionally like giving up stuff, right? And that's not really what it's about in unity. It's about resisting and eliminating it from the sight, so we're not tempted.
No, it's sliding to your coat. Don't tip it up.
Okay. That's all right. Well, even if I got frosting on my coat, it would be okay with me. But, I didn't resist, sorry. But, anyway, I'm going to start over. I'm Marygrace. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you guys are here. I'm glad the people at home are here. And I hope that they like the new camera angle where we can see everybody while Anton is playing or Kathy is playing, or when they're over there. I want to just be able to see everybody and have safe hair. And so we can also have the children's message. That was the primary motivation behind it. But, okay, so there's a story of a man. He's wearing a black coat. He's walking down the street, and a guy comes up behind him with a gun and demands all his money. And the minister turns around. The robber sees his clerical collar, jumps back, puts his gun away. Oh, I never take money from preachers. And he goes, oh, well, that's good. Would you like a mint? He goes, oh, I don't eat sweets for Lent. It took you a second, okay? Well, that's not really what it's about, right? It's not about depriving ourselves of something during Lent. It's historically the 40 days, right? Not counting Sundays, because if you count, there are more days than that. Not counting Sundays from Ash Wednesday to Easter. And here we are, 16 days, 2/5 of the way through Lent. And, it's this period, Harold Ewing told us that this is period, and it's really become superficial, right? It's about many traditional Christians giving up something that they really didn't need anyway, right? You ask one boy what he's going to give up, he says algebra, right? And he doesn't want to hit century with the first century Christians, that they gave up rich and fatty foods and meat, except for fish on Fridays, right? That tradition is still around. And they gave it up because Jesus, the man, sacrificed on the cross. And it was their way of sacrificing like he did, right? And, it's even said that that in first century Christians, in order to convert to Christianity, anybody want to do that? There are repercussions from it. But they did that to show their commitment to their belief for this. And they felt this was a time of sadness and they should suffer so they could understand, right? And I don't know that that's really what it's about, at least from the Fillmore's perspective. Charles and Myrtle were the co-founders of Unity, and they tell us in the book, Keep a True Lent, that it is totally created by the church. Jesus doesn't talk anything about the 40 days before his time on the cross because, I don't know, he was living his life and this is the events that happened. This is something that dogma put on it, right? And so, but it is an exalted idea in the mind of cleansing and releasing and resisting the things in our minds and bodies that are not for our highest good, right? And leave us not in temptation, right? It's to pull us out of those things that we're tempted by. And there are things that we habitually do that we don't even realize are temptations, right? We're tempted by the thought to think, oh, I'm too tired. I'm not going to do that right now. Anybody ever have that thought? No. Or, I don't know. I really need to get up and exercise today, but I'm not going to do that right now. I mean, we resist the things that are good for us, and we think, oh God, I'm not even going to try to go to that thing because I don't have any clothes that fit, and I don't want to go because I'm just going to look frumpy. Well, whatever our thoughts are. Kids might think more things like that person doesn't like me, and I'm not going to try that. I didn't do good on that last math test, so I must be horrible at math, right? And we set ourselves up in our lives by things that happened in our childhood by not learning to change our thinking. We have to change our thoughts. And that's, all Unity Principle 3, right? We co-create our world with God by choosing our thoughts and creating our world by our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. And so affirmation, please. I fast from negativity and feast on affirmations. I fast on negativity and feast on affirmations. I fast on negativity and feast on affirmations. Isn't that a good idea? I'd like to do that. Try. So as I've said before, the 40 days was tied to Jesus's fasting before he even entered into his teaching, long before this, because he entered into his ministry at 29, correct, Anton? And then he, he's got all this back. Jesus entered into his ministry at 29. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. He just always can confirm with me. And then it was in ministry like 5 or 6 years, right? And it's 35 when he's going through the crucifixion. So it wasn't that long, and it was a long time ago he had done that he's teaching to, hadn't known about the 40 days. But you see it, even though it's not in the Bible for this, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and it was flooded for 40 more days and nights. And then we have the 40 days that Moses the mountain, and then we have the 40 days. I mean, it just happens all over. And what have I said about it before? It's a time of completion, the time that it takes to complete a task, us to unfold, the time that it takes for us to resist those, fast from those ideas and create a new habit. They say it's 21 days. I really think it's 40. You might be in the habit 28 days and you're getting it and you think you're going good. And how many people fall off like at day 32? Yeah, a lot of us do. You think you're going to make it through and you can change a new habit, but I really think it takes 40 days to really shift our thinking. And, Reverend David Siebert, he's a retired Unity minister, and he says he likes to look at Lent as a time to give things up to God, to release that he has to be in control and give God the power to work through him in his life. And what he just says by that is he's getting his ego and his human sense consciousness out of the way and learning to rely more on being in alignment with God. Because that's what it takes to shift our thinking. To fast from that negative thinking, we have to be aware of it and then choose to center and choose something different, right? Because it's easy to get into those traps, at least for me. I don't know about you. So there was a man, and when he was a young man, boy into mine, probably not a common task today. We have laws preventing us from working in mines as children, but he did that. And then he worked as a lumberjack. Know anybody who did that? And you do? Oh. And then he worked as a garage mechanic. And then he spent 2 years in a gable. He had to be patient for his dreams and things to come through. And I told you before that hi, Ron, you didn't know the time changed. He's springing forward. Anyway, so, I knew I was going to be a minister at 50 years later. That's patience. So it is the time that it takes, not necessarily 40 days, right? It's the time that it takes for something in our Christ consciousness to shift. We're talking about Lent and the season of grace. Welcome. So, we had Ash Wednesday, and what comes right before Ash Wednesday? Fat Tuesday, which is the day of feasting, right? The last day, but we really don't feast, right? In our affirmation, we feast on the positive things that we want to hold on to. I've got another slide here. So there's an acronym for Lent. And it used to be, and I'm thinking, that's what I learned. Isn't that what you learned, Lucille? Let's eliminate negative thinking. And negative thinking focuses on the negative. So I changed it to let's empower new thinking. You like that? Let's empower new thinking. Let's say that together. Let's empower new thinking. I think that's a much better way to think of Lent, to empower new thinking. Because every time we think that if I'm eliminating negative, I'm still thinking about the negative. But if I'm empowering new thinking, I like that better. So I just switched that at the last moment, didn't I, Kathy? I did. She was like really excited she'd gotten this acronym and I'm going, that just doesn't work this year for me anymore. I'm starting anew here. So do you want to fast from judging others and feast on finding that indwelling Christ light, right? Most of us do that most of the time until somebody does something that just irritates us, and then we judge, right? And then, at least that's what happens to me. We can fast from emphasizing on people's differences and feast on the unity of us. For those of us who went to the conference Kathy was talking about yesterday, there was a lot of emphasis on that, finding the unity and acknowledging the richness that we come with. Each of us come with our story and the richness there, and knowing that when we all go to this place, we're really truly one, right? Coming to that. At least we think that. We can fast from pessimism and feast on optimism. We can fast on discontent and feast on gratitude. That's why we do the gratitude at the beginning of the service. We can fast from complaining and feast on appreciation and looking for the good. Anton gave me a lemon this morning. I'm really looking forward to going home and smelling that lemon. I'm going to feast on the smell of that and the joy of that. And that was just a small token. It's not anything big. And I shouldn't probably have said that because he didn't bring one for everybody. But he did share one. He did share one with me. But that it's that idea of sharing. That's one of the things I'll come up with later. I got off on my talk again. So we're going to fast from those negative things and feast on the positive stuff, the stuff that's going to empower us. So let's empower some new thinking in our life. I think that works for us. The late Reverend Joanna Gabriel said that Lent is a season of grace, which is where I got my talk title from, and it's shifted me. I hate to admit this. This was in last year's Lent book, and I hadn't read it. I hadn't read this particular piece, because they have that big article at the front. I don't always read that. I get to the daily stuff, and I went back and read it this year, and it's this season of grace, which is why we're talking about it. It's that grace that comes into our life, that feeling of peace when we switch our thoughts, when we switch it and come to a place of love. And when we come to that place of love, it just forgives all. It shifts everything. And she suggests that we do 4 things to prepare for graceful living. You think with Marygrace is my name, I could say graceful, right? But no. This makes one clumsy if one's name is Grace. I have learned from personal experience. But my first one, is it up there? Yes, is to release, to change our emotional location. Right? We're frustrated, we're angry, we don't feel like we're good enough, we're not happy. Whatever it is that negative thought is, we're going to fast from that and change from that. Right? We're going to release it and change our emotional location. And we could do that by getting away from the news. listening to music, journaling, helping, taking time to look out the window at all the critters that come by. And she just loved the snow, seeing it coming down. Just, it's all beautiful. She has a huge window, and she loves looking out it. So we can use this time of Lent to change our emotional location. So number one, say it with me. And number two is to return, change our hearts. And that is where we release those false beliefs, those our weaknesses, for cake or whatever it is, our hurt feelings, our unfulfilled desires. We just release all that and return to our hearts in love. Because if we go back to love, we can release it. You know how if we just look for the love, it releases it? So, one, we got another slide now, Scott. One, change, return, say it with me, return, release. It's release. Change our emotional location, return, change our hearts. And the third one, reading ahead, release and change our thinking, right? For catching our thoughts and changing our thinkings. And it's not always easy to change our thoughts about things. It's not always easy to release something that's happened, especially if we have an emotional hook in it, I found. Sometimes it's easy to release things, but other things that overwhelm us and fill us with joy and gratitude, with the beauty and the joy surrounding us by changing our thinking, and then we change our life, right? It does. How many of you have ever caught yourself in that situation since being in unity? Isn't that the most powerful thing? To be able to catch yourself and change the thought and release that and choose to think something else. I think that's why everybody's sitting here, right? That's powerful if you didn't know it. To know that when we align with that Christ consciousness with God, that Jesus Christ consciousness through us, he taught us all about us. So, one more slide, Scott, here. Well, actually, several more. One, retreat, say it with me. Retreat, change our emotional location. Return, change our hearts. Release, change our thing. Yes. And then 4 is renew, change. And with that, we change our mind. Bring forth. And what does this spring do? Boing, boing, boing. It brings you up in consciousness. It puts us, if you like use our minds, that's what can happen. And we can do it by what Kathy was talking about in her meditation, just the common smile, like Anton demonstrated with his lemons, like Shelba demonstrated with her brownies this morning. You know, these small tokens that we share with others, we receive? How do we feel? Great. So let's do that. Let's do that. I think it's a good idea. Let's do that. When you share something, whatever your gift and talent is, we all have things. Blanche comes in and helps with the finances every week. Every week she comes in and helps enter the data. And that's a gift of hers, and she gives it, and it takes her mind away from other things in your life, doesn't it? Because she has to focus on that. And when Nancy plays and creates her music, or Laura and Anton does, it gets you out of yourself, doesn't it? It gives you, so giving our gifts is doing it. Teaching your class, reading the daily, whatever our gifts are, you know, we each have them, and we each share them. And when we do, we get to whole reorganize, and it comes action. Say that with me. We're going to go through the first 2 here. Release, change, retreat. I'm going to start over. I got to start over. Return, isn't it? Oh, that is right. Is it release twice, Marygrace? Yes, it is. No, I made an error. That's okay. It's retreat. Forgive me. I'm not going to focus on that, but it's supposed to be retreat. Retreat. That makes more sense, doesn't it? I apologize. I just typed it wrong, and then I was reading that. So retreat, change our emotional location. So that's what we do when we retreat, right? We step back, we evaluate, we're saying, oh, I'm going to be over here rather than over here. That's retreating emotional location. Retreat, change our emotional location. That was for Marygrace, not for you. To retreat, return, change our hearts, release, change our thinking, and renew, change our minds and actions, right? Because it's our minds and actions. If we know this all in our head, what's Unity Principle 5? We've got to practice it. And we have to practice this truth of thinking. But if it doesn't change our actions, it's not showing up. It's not showing up. So let's go here. I know, I still have a little bit of time. I'm going to go to Scripture. I just have one short scripture. It's in Matthew chapter 19, verse 26. Jesus looked at them and said, with mortals this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. You've heard that before, haven't you? Let's look at it metaphysically. Jesus is the one whose help is in Jehovah, the infinite one. One whose help is in Jehovah. And where's the back of this page? Oh, it's right here on the bottom of this page. And mortals means when we are in human material sense consciousness, where we live most of our lives, right? So that would make sense. Mortals are the ones who do that, right? And then it says, but with God all things are possible. God is the infinite one. And things are thoughts lowered into sense perception. So the things that are impossible are these, we don't get to manipulate here, right? God does that with our thinking, right? We co-create. So that with God, all things are possible, right? So what we could translate to this verse, Jesus looked at them and said, with mortals, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible, could say, the one whose help is in the infinite one, all of us can rely on the infinite one, tells us that in mortal consciousness, it's impossible. When we rely on God, if we trust in sense consciousness, it's impossible, right? We have to do it ourselves. It works sometimes, but it doesn't really change things. But when we're aligned with the Eternal One, then we can rise up that lowered vibration, and anything is possible by changing our thinking. So it still says the same thing, but when we look at it deeper, it still says the same thing to me. With God, it's possible. We got to get in contact. And where do we do that? Prayer and meditation. It usually comes back down to that. So we got to simply take the time. So this Lent, the rest of these 16 days before Easter, I invite you to fast from those negative thoughts. Catch them and choose to think something different, and then focus on our gifts that we can share to create more good. East is going to be here before you know it. There'll be I bet there are Easter eggs everywhere already. Are there? I haven't been in the stores, so I bet there are. But we're going to see that and find that joy that comes. So thank you. Namaste. And now we have Reverend Ken coming up with our affirmation. Is he coming up? I guess he is.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now is the time of our offering, and I ask the ushers to come forward. And let us begin with our UCIR confirmation consciousness statement. And let's say this together. Thine order, now manifesting in every phase of this ministry, through its expanding prosperity, attendance, and by being a light on the path for others. And now let's hold our offering in our hands and let's bless it together. divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Abundance. And so it is.
It's St. Patrick's Day on Friday, so here's a little Irish tune. Hang on a minute. Wait. Let's. Thank you.
We can't do that one more time? Oh, what a blessing. What a blessing for this wonderful forward and everyone who has participated in this service today. We are so riches that go forward into our community. Together, we give thanks for all that we have, for all that we give. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now for our announcements. And our announcements, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge all of our volunteers. Scott back on our soundboard, Janice and Jerry doing our ushering today. Meditation this week will be Tuesday. You're out and about, stop in. I hear it might be a wet one. Also, you can see Kathy, myself, and Marygrace for prayer after service. We have a 9:30 prayer circle meeting in the prayer room before service on Sundays. Course of Miracles will meet Wednesday at 10. Way of the Mastery meets on Thursday at 1. And you can check the bulletin. Margie is currently on the mission that she talked a little bit about 2 or 3 weeks ago when she was here with us. But they still have other students that are going on mission between now and June. So still, if you have any work that needs to be done around the house and you'd like some helping hands, talk to Marygrace and she will provide you with a telephone number that you can call. We are going to still have our lunch gathering, our fundraiser on 3/20. You can get your tickets now or right after service. All right. I love it. So if you aren't one of the ones that just called out that you have yours, we have yours available for you. Also, we have the men's retreat that'll be meeting on May 5th, so circle in that date. There's flyers on the bulletin board and also in Friendship Hall. So take that and give it to the significant male role. Also, we have a women's retreat, and that will be on May the 6th. So while the men are retreating, the women will be retreating. And it'll be here, and there'll be a flyer coming shortly. We look forward to seeing everybody next Sunday right here in the sanctuary. We do not have a time change next week. So for everyone that's not here because of the time change, they will be here next week. Anything else you'd like to add? Annual meeting follows the service, so we'll probably take about 5 or 6 minutes for you to, brush your teeth, grab something to eat, and we'll be right back here, meeting here in the sanctuary. So please stay for it. Even if you're not a member, you can still participate once that approval has been given, and you can participate and listen and any ideas, any thoughts you might have. So without further ado, let us move on in our service, and that'll be for our singing of a brand new song, Thank You for Being in the World.
Well, it's not brand new.
Well-
I've heard it before, but it's
It's not new to you. It's new as the closing song for at least a couple times.
I love you, I bless you, thank you for being in the world. I love you, I bless you, thank you for being in the world. I love you, I bless you, thank you for being in the world. Thank you for being in the world. I love you, I bless you. Thank you for being in the world. I love you, I bless you. Thank you for being in the world.
Let's all sing to each other this time.
I love you, I bless you. Thank you for being in the world. I love you, I bless you. Thank you for being in the world. I love you, I bless you. Thank you for being in the world.
Brand new to me. So I liked it. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being here and remembering to set your clocks forward. That's pretty impressive, if you ask me. So give yourself a pat on the back. Yeah, there you go. All right. Probably shouldn't do that with a mic back there. Anyway, let's say our prayer for protection together. Are you guys ready? The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is. Thanks for being here, and grab a bite, brush your teeth, as Ken said. I don't know why, because you just woke up, right? And join us in a few minutes for the annual meeting. your CD. Hold